It was a dark and lonely night, and all around the small house, the wind howled as if it were trying to tear the roof off. Inside, the fire in the fireplace flickered and danced, casting a warm and comforting glow over the room. But for one woman, the darkness and loneliness were all too familiar. She sat alone in her bed staring up at the ceiling, tears streaming down her face as she thought about her husband. He was off at war fighting for their country, and she missed him more than words could say. She missed the way he would hold her close at night, the way he would kiss her softly on the forehead before they fell asleep. She missed the sound of his voice, the way he would make her laugh, and the way he would always know just what to say to make everything all right. But as the days turned into weeks and the weeks turned into months, she found that the longing in her heart only seemed to grow stronger. She would lay in bed at night staring at the empty space beside her, and imagine that he was there holding her and whispering sweet nothings in her ear. She would close her eyes and imagine that she could feel his warm breath on her skin, and that she could hear the steady beat of his heart. But despite the ache in her heart, she never gave up hope. She knew that one day her husband would come home, and that they would be reunited once again. And so she waited, and she prayed, and she hoped. And then, one day, the letter came. Her husband was coming home. He was coming home to her. She could hardly believe it as she read the words, her hands shaking with excitement and joy. She wanted to shout it from the rooftops, to tell everyone that her husband was coming home, that they would be together again. But she didn't have to. The news spread quickly through the small town, and soon everyone knew that the soldier was coming home. The whole town was alive with excitement and anticipation, and as the day of his arrival grew closer, the woman's heart swelled with love and longing. Finally, the day arrived. She dressed in her best clothes and put on her prettiest smile. She was going to see her husband, the love of her life. She waited at the train station with the other family members of the soldiers, her heart pounding in her chest. And then she saw him. He was standing there, looking tired and worn, but with a smile on his face, and her heart leapt with joy. She ran to him, and he opened his arms to her, and she was home. They hugged each other tightly, tears streaming down their faces as they whispered sweet nothings to each other. They talked about the war and the things they had missed while they were apart, but they also talked about their future and the dreams they had for their life together. As they stepped into their house, it was as if time had stood still. Everything was just as they had left it, and it was comforting to know that their home was waiting for them. They took a moment to just stand there and take it all in, feeling the warmth of the fire in the fireplace and the familiar smell of their home. They were finally reunited and they were back to their normal life. Little did Stan know Jane had a surprise for him. She announced him that she was pregnant and they both cried tears of joy. That night, they lay in bed together, holding each other close and talking softly. As they lay in bed, the woman nestled into her husband's arms, feeling the steady beat of his heart against her back. She closed her eyes and let out a contented sigh, feeling a sense of peace and security that she had not felt in a long time. She could feel his arms wrapped tightly around her, holding her close and keeping her safe, and she knew that she was exactly where she was meant to be. As they drifted off to sleep, their breathing slowed and synchronized, becoming one. They were lost in their thoughts and the feeling of being together after a long time of missing each other. The woman could feel his heartbeat in his chest rising and falling with each breath, and she knew that he was there with her, and that he would always be there for her. This feeling of safety and comfort was all she needed. And as they fell asleep, they knew that they were home. Months later, the woman's heart was broken once again when her husband received orders to go back to war. She couldn't believe that they had to go through this again, but she knew that she couldn't stand in the way of her husband's duty to his country. She hugged him tightly and told him that she would be waiting for him, and that she would always be there for him no matter what. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks turned into months, and the woman found that the longing in her heart was just as strong as it had been the first time her husband had gone to war. As the woman's due date approached, she couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions. She was excited to finally meet her baby, but she was also sad that her husband couldn't be there to share the moment with her. She knew that he was off at war fighting for their country, and she missed him more than words could say. But she also knew that he would be there with her in spirit, and that he would be cheering her on from wherever he was. As the labor pains began to come closer together, she felt a sense of calm and determination wash over her. She knew that she was strong and that she could do this. And as she pushed and pushed, she could feel her husband's presence with her, and she knew that he was there, cheering her on and holding her hand through every contraction. And finally, as the baby's cries filled the room, she felt a sense of overwhelming love and joy wash over her. She knew that her husband would be so proud of her, and she knew that he would be home soon to meet their new little bundle of joy. Thank you for listening to this story. We hope it helped you to fall asleep and have a peaceful night. We know how important it is to have a good night's sleep. That's why we want to offer you a new sleep story every day. Please like and subscribe to our channel for more daily sleep stories that will help you to relax and fall asleep. We wish you sweet dreams and a good night's rest.